Take their seats. Yes, the same order. Exactly. Our at the University of Dar es Salaam, our keynote speaker, Professor Dan Brockingstone from the Autonomous University of Barcelona, our principal of the College of Social Sciences, Professor Christian Noy, dear speakers and delegates of the 8th Voice of Social Sciences International Conference, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I take this opportunity to welcome all of you to this very beautiful conference that is taking place for the 8th time this year. And I have the honor to introduce myself. I'm Richard Sambaiga, a senior lecturer in the Department of Sociology and Anthropology in the College of Social Sciences. And so, my job, the first one, is to welcome you once again at the University of Dar es Salaam and to this particular conference. And I want to say the voices of social sciences from Africa, from the world, is on air once again today. And I want us to put our hands together to congratulate ourselves for being here. Now, let me, without wasting time, because we have a few minutes delay in terms of starting, I want to take the opportunity to welcome the principal of the college, Professor Christian Noe, to give us her welcoming remarks, and then she will invite the guest of honor, Professor Nelson Boniface, to give his opening remarks. Karibu sana, Prof.
Asante sana, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. This is the 8th time that we are organizing this conference, but each time there's a difference. This time also, there is a difference that we will see, starting from the book of abstract that we have. We will continue to learn these differences and cumulatively what they bring to our experiences. But DVC research, Professor Nelson Boniface, Professor Dan Brockington, who is not the first time we have, but very pleased that you are also available this time. Distinguished guests that I may not know the names at the same time, but I know a few of you. I will mention. Thank you, Professor Mkandala, for coming. He's a very senior scholar in the college with a lot of responsibilities, but really a mentor, a leader, and a person we are happy to have amongst us. We have representatives from different countries as conference participants who have traveled from around the world, some of them not the first time, but I can tell most of you who have come from abroad have come for the first time, but you have participants from Uganda, from Kenya, Malawi, South Africa. We have from Nigeria, from Ghana, from Denmark, also from Spain and Poland. We have participants from China. And please remember, this is a hybrid conference, so a lot more will be online during the parallel sessions. Our students, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I take this opportunity to warmly welcome you to this 8th Conference of Voice of Social Sciences. It's an international conference organized biannually, which is hosted by the College of Social Sciences here at the University of Dar es Salaam. We are grateful for a very positive response to this conference call. And as I always refer to a Kiswahili proverb, shughuli ni watu na watu ni sisi, literally that if you want something to be successful, you need people. And you are the people. Thank you for showing up. Thank you so much. Some of you have said already that you are my all-time supporters. You are collaborators of our college in terms of research collaborations, but also teaching. And you have been part of a very successful growth of this important forum. As its name goes, we are a platform for raising and supporting the Global South Scholarship. We have both African-based and non-African-based scholars, but we all aim to shape the common and dominant ideas and structures of power in the global knowledge production and dissemination systems. So whether from the global north or global south, we are here because we have a common goal. And the growing interest in this conference ensures us that the efforts to organize it have successfully bore fruits. And we have now different ideas on how to continue growing. This year particularly, we actually contemplated to receive and respond to an invitation to go to China to host this, to hold this conference in China. But we paused this invitation. It might be, again, unmuted in future, is a possibility. But we see that we need to strengthen the South-South collaboration. We perhaps need to extend our reach within the country, within the region, and then we can go to the rest of the global south. What about going to Zanzibar? We have the State University of Zanzibar for VSS. What about going to Dodoma, University of Dodoma, hosting the VSS? I think that kind of collaboration is required for colleagues who are here. That's what we are looking at. And beyond, we go to the rest of Africa, and we become a platform, a regional platform. We are social scientists, and social science extends to different areas, including development studies, business studies. We have education studies. We have language studies. Those are also social science-related disciplines. So we are not narrowly looking at social science as we have them in our university structures. So we look forward to making this an important regional platform where we can discuss issues facing our communities, facing our economies, and also our regional politics that are very important for our people. So ladies and gentlemen, let me say something very briefly about the College of Social Sciences, which I am the principal. While you can visit our website and find more information and our activities, you are also welcome to visit the departments which are just around this area. And most of our heads of departments are also here. We have the Department of Political Science and Public Administration. We have Department of Geography. Department of Statistics, Department of Sociology and Anthropology, but also the Unit of Information Studies within our university library. In addition to these departments, we also have 5 or more research centers, including the Research for Democracy in Tanzania, for which Professor Mkandala is here, is the engine of the center. We have the Center of Society and Religion, which is within the Department of Sociology. The Center for Strategic and Peace Studies in the Political Science. We have Population Studies and Research Center, but also we have a research chair on forced displacement. I mention these so that you know what we have and how you can think strategically about collaborations with us. In these departments and research centers, we have different active research collaborations, and most of the panels you see are also organized around these research collaborative projects. We have an urgent need to strengthen our collaborations, as I have said already. We rarely hear about student and staff exchange within the South-South institutions. We have a lot in the South-North, but perhaps through this platform, we can also initiate such kind of collaborations. Colleagues from North Africa, we rarely have that kind of collaboration, but you are here. We can start such kind of collaborations. That's how we can strengthen our institutions and also the social science research and raise the voice that we need to raise and challenge the common research and ideas that have led us for a long time, but perhaps not necessarily the most useful way of thinking. Professor Boniface, since you may not be here until the end of the conference, I should thank you for your support to this conference. And as you can see from the program, the social scientists have come from different parts of the world. Others are participating online. And they are doing very interesting research. Some of them are doing research here in Tanzania. We received over 130 papers, which have been organized in 28 interesting sessions. In total, we will have 228 participants in these different sessions, and this number has grown substantially from that of 2022. We organized a public plenary as a pre-conference event, which was here yesterday, and that targeted the public, the general public, in terms of the interaction with the society, and it was on the natural resources and human rights in Tanzania. We have the speaker here who led us yesterday, Professor Emmanuel Sule, and we thank you very much for initiating the discussion. We will continue that because it is needed. Our students are doing research around the area. We are also experiencing different kinds of challenges within the country. So we need to also participate in influencing and advising the policy for the better future. This was an important opportunity to reflect on very important issues that are facing the society in Tanzania, which we always use as our research sites. We go to villages, but we don't normally go back there to provide feedback. So the aim was to raise our voices also and let the public know that we have this kind of debates here. Tomorrow we will also have a very important roundtable discussion on academic freedom and social responsibility of academics. And here we mean to remind ourselves as academics that freedom does not come on a silver plate. It is fought for. However, if you have not done your responsibility, it is very difficult also to ask for that freedom. Are we really doing what we are supposed to do? Are we still academics? Are we in the middle? Are we lost? Can we go back and discuss how we remain relevant and how to move forward with the kind of relevance that the society is expecting us? So I consider this roundtable discussion very important for every one of us. So welcome tomorrow at the end of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, in the process of preparing the book of abstract, which is available on our website, we learned that through this conference, participants who are also potential authors of papers can establish very useful networks for future collaborations in research and publication. You will all agree that we lack strength in competing favorably in the industry, publication industry. So unless we network enough within the region and with colleagues who are doing, from North who are doing research here, to have a voice in publications, we will also continue to struggle. I therefore encourage you to take a tour in the program so that you can make clear and very careful selection so that you benefit from meeting new people within your area of research. Our wish for the future is to make VSS attractive for intellectual engagements relating to the current socioeconomic and political circumstances of our countries, the global south, and the planet Earth. This will involve also facilitating production of high-quality publications of these conferences. In the previous conference, we chose to call for special issues after the conference, and we targeted our 4 college journals. We have the Journal of African Review, Journal of Sociology, Journal of Geographical Association of Tanzania, and Population and Development Studies. I thank those who submitted their papers, and I must say we benefited a lot also from the organization of these special issues, one of which came out in 2023 through the African Review, which is our journal on Scopus. So it is a very high quality publication outlet. Other journals too benefited from your submissions, and after this conference we will do the same. We will communicate to you all to say what options we have after the conference. Most likely, again, we will do special issues on the topic of on the theme of this conference. Dear conference participants, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to engage with different parent sections as we also establish new collaborations, contacts, and capitalize on networking opportunities. And at this point, I will welcome DVC Research, who has been very, as I said, very supportive of this initiative, to share his welcome remarks. And I know shortly after that he will leave for other important university activities, but hopefully he will be able to join us in parallel sessions. He's geologist, he's professor of geology. Geology is not far from the society that we are talking about. So welcome also to the parallel sessions, but for now, karibu sana.
Our keynote speaker, Professor Dan Blockington, who is actually, I'm told, representing Professor Zainab Usman, the Director of African Program at Carnegie, who could not travel to this place due to election in the US that was concluded yesterday. But that part of the world, actually, yesterday, it was actually facing weather disturbance from the hurricane moving from the East Havana to the east coast of America, but was dying. Probably that would have also hindered her travel. A principal of the College of Social Sciences, Professor Christine Noe, all the international participants. I have heard participants from different parts of the world. I would like to actually see those from East and the Southern Africa together stand and wave to the others from other parts of the world. From East and Southern Africa, please stand and wave, including Tanzanians. East Africa, Ampo, wave, please. Thank you so much. And those from West Africa, stand and wave, please. It's healthy to do that. Thank you. Those from Europe, I heard people from Europe. Please stand and wave. Thank you. From Asia, China, and elsewhere, please stand up and wave. They are online. Actually, I'm informed that other participants are here physically, others are online. I'm very happy to see a senior professors of this university, especially Professor Mkandala, who has been actually introduced by Professor Noe. Please stand up and wave. This is a prominent, respected professor. Actually, he has been our Vice Chancellor for 10 consecutive years, and his tenure actually was prolonged for almost 1 year or two. In 2018, he retired, and has been prominent. This year, he gave an inaugural valedictory professorial speech on this stage. That research and presentation attracted the attention of all Tanzanians and beyond. Actually, if you get time, go to YouTube and try to find an inaugural professorial lecture from Professor Mkandala. You will see it. Congratulations, Professor Mkandala. Dear participants of this conference, professors, students, and all members of staff from the University of Dar es Salaam, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm very happy to stand before you, actually, and get this opportunity to give opening remarks on the 8th Voice of Social Sciences International Conference 2014. On behalf of the University Management, University of Dar es Salaam, I would like to welcome you here and guarantee you a peaceful environment and security so that you can enjoy this place. You have chosen the right place in terms of the venue where you are seated, and our university, which is old and respected in Africa and beyond. This hall, which we call Nkrumah Hall, is iconic. Actually, it is recognized by UNESCO as National Heritage Building. It has served not only Tanzania, but Africa as a stage for fighting for freedom since the 70s, 80s, etc. So you have chosen a right place to do your conference. And I would like, before you leave, those guys who have never visited Dar es Salaam and our university, to take the opportunity to go around our beautiful campus, around the rolling hills and preserved indigenous vegetation, trees, which are hopped by monkeys, but they are not dangerous. And I would like also to invite you to visit a newly launched or newly established Professor Upo. What is newly established in your College of Humanities? Yeah, the University of Dar es Salaam Museum. Simama kuone, please. We are proud of Professor Upo. She's a principal of humanities. She's ensuring that the history of the University of Dar es Salaam is well preserved. So you could, after some time when you have free time, visit the College of Humanities and see our history in the museum, which is recently launched. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'm informed about the theme of this conference, which is on Africa in the age of uncertainties, risk resilience, and the future prospect. I have gone through the book of abstract with this limited time and found themes on governance, climate change, economic development, human rights, and academic freedom. I think they are crucial for addressing societal and regional challenges. Your themes foster interdisciplinary collaboration, showcases impactful research, and enhances universities' academic stature. By exploring diverse issues such as resource extraction and the social policies, the conference promotes knowledge sharing and informed decision making, contributing to resilience and the progress in the face uncertainties across Africa. This interdisciplinary or cross-disciplinary approach is aligned with the University Agenda 2018-2028, through which we believe through that agenda, two or more disciplines working together are more likely to offer wider, complementary, and a more interpretive perspective than individual discipline. I have heard that yesterday you had a discussion or around the table, and on that stage you advocated the academic freedom and the social responsibility of academics in Africa. I know this is important. When we speak of academic freedom, we are not speaking of the extreme radical movements, but to seek good environment where your research can be disseminated and you can easily get data and assist our society. Professor Noe mentioned that I'm a geologist. I give an example of extractive industry. If we have freedom in exercising it, we know through academic freedom we can drive societal progress by enabling fearless exploration, fostering innovation to tackle poverty and governance challenges. For example, in Tanzania, research on land rights and the impacts of extractive industries have informed policy and raised awareness. If we speak of extractive industry, that involves extraction of natural resources such as minerals, oil, gas, from earth for economic purposes. While these industries can drive economic growth and development, they can also cause significant harm to the society. So through academic freedom, we can mitigate environmental damage mitigate issues of economic inequality. If you raise your voice, the issues of community displacement due to this kind of activities, health risks that might be associated with the contamination of, from toxic byproducts, social conflicts, etc. So we see overall, with this practice carefully, we can regulate our practices and ensure sustainability and environmental health. Ladies and gentlemen, we see also your conference theme is aligned with Africa Agenda 2063 on the Africa we want. We know that the aspirations of this agenda, from sustainable development to cultural identity and global influence, guide our aspirations for a prosperous, integrated, peaceful, and influential Africa around the globe. Without making you tired, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude my remarks by reiterating the university's community to foster intellectual debate that address societal challenges in Africa and beyond. This aligns with the university vision of being a global center of intellectual wealth, known for its relevance and responsiveness. I would like also to commend the work well done by the College of Humanities and the College of Social Sciences and Professor Noe for coordinating this event. I'm very proud of your leadership. She has been in that office for 2 consecutive, almost one term. I hope you will proceed with the second term as a principal of the college and beyond. Thank you so much for advocating the agenda. I commend also the team that you have worked with, your staff, and the other international scholars who worked tirelessly to make this event successful. With these remarks, I officially declare this 8th VSS, as you mentioned, you name it, International Conference officially opened. I wish you fruitful discussions and a productive conference experience. Asanteni sana. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Nelson Boniface, our DVC research, for such a moving opening remarks. And I think you have set the tone that actually the voices of sciences need to be cross-cutting. He comes from geology, that is natural science. But I can see his reflections were quite appealing into showing the human face of geology. Asante sana, Prof. Now, let me invite Dr. Shangwe to come and say a word about our keynote speaker and bring him on stage. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Dr. Richard Sambaiga. Good morning, everyone. My name is Muidin Shangwe, lecturer from the Department of Political Science, but I also serve as the chair of the organizing committee for this conference. So on behalf of my committee, I say karibu sana, which means you're welcome, and enjoy your moment here. Now, I have the privilege to introduce to you Professor Daniel Brockington, who is a trained anthropologist from UCL, University of California, where he obtained his PhD in 1998. He is currently a research professor at the Catalan Institution for Research and Advanced Studies at the Autonomous University of Barcelona. He has previously worked in the geography department of the universities of Oxford and Cambridge, the Global Development Institute at Manchester, as a coordinator of the Institute of Global Sustainable International Development at the University of Sheffield. Professor Brockington has been working in different aspects of conservation social science for some time, covering the social impacts of conservation policy, global overviews of eviction from protected areas, continental-wide examination of the work of conservation NGOs in Africa, and the work of media and celebrity in conservation and development. His immense body of work consists of over 150 publications. I will repeat. His immense body of work consists of over 150 publications, including 9 books and 5 special issues. Professor Brockington is a recipient of over a dozen research grants. In April 2022, he won an advanced grant from the European Research Council to work on conservation data justice. In the same year, he was awarded the prestigious ICREA professorship, the Catalan Institution for Research and Advanced Studies. And he has also served on the board of conservation and development NGOs called Messiah in Mozambique. With all these accolades, there is more which is fascinating to me, and I believe to you as well. Are you nervous, Professor? Professor Brockington is a children's book writer. He writes books for children. And in March 2024, his fictional trilogy for middle grade readers, and I'll mention the titles: Samti the Forest Thief, Samti the Mountain Stealer, and The Pinky Boda Boda, was launched in Dar es Salaam. Professor Brockington speaks Kiswahili and English fluently, French and Spanish not so fluently. Correct? Ladies and gentlemen, you will agree with me that before us is a distinguished scholar who has a vast research experience working in Africa. And without further ado, I welcome Professor Daniel Brockington to give his keynote speech. Karibu.
Jamani, nawashukuru. Nawashukuru sana kunikaribisha hivyo. Thank you so much for inviting and welcoming me here. Our distinguished guest, TVC Research, thank you so much for your kind welcoming words. It's very good to be able to share a stage with you. And Professor Mukandala, thank you so much also for attending. This is a tremendous honor. It is my joy and my privilege to be able to give this keynote speech to you, even if my name is not the same as the name on the program, and I'm slightly different from the person in the program. I don't care. This is a wonderful chance to be here with, again, and Christine, thank you so much for organizing this venue. I have had the honor of being associated and working at the University of Dar es Salaam since 1994. So this is my 30th anniversary. I have never had the privilege of speaking in this hall with its incredible tradition of debate and discussion. This is an extraordinary honor, and I'm delighted to be able to seize this opportunity with both hands. So thank you again for this welcome and this kind introduction. And it's also a great opportunity to explain that I find myself in new circumstances since the last time I came to talk at this college, because I've now been able to leave the United Kingdom. I work in Spain. I live in Barcelona, which I understand people have heard about. Previously, when I lived in the UK and I said I work at Sheffield, they said, and I just said it's near Manchester. But now, living in Barcelona, Jamani Karibuni, Nikuzuri, it's a good place. And I know that on many occasions, tunaposema karibu Ulaya, welcome to Europe, people think, Jamani, ubaguzi, hali ya hewa, chakula chake. The food, the weather, the racism, no thank you. And colleagues, Spain has those problems, certainly has the problem of racism, but where I live, we have 300 days of sunshine a year. We have Catalonian food. And nimeomba visa kwa watu mbalimbali kufika Spain. I've asked for a visa for people to come to Spain 5 or 6 times now, 3 or 4 times from Tanzania. Kuna ustarabu. They are civilized. We invited somebody to come for a meeting at the end of September, and we invited them in August, and Spain shuts in August, so they said the first opportunity is in October. And I wrote to the embassy here in Dar es Salaam, and I said, that's too late. They said, Aje Jumatatu, he can come on Monday. We had another person who was asking for a visa, and we didn't have the hotel booking in the embassy. They said, we need the hotel booking. He went outside to the garden, phoned me up. I sent it on WhatsApp. He went back inside. He talked to somebody face to face. So I'm extremely grateful. If anyone from the Spanish embassy here is listening, then thank you. Muchas gracias para ayudar, Aisho. Thank you for helping us in this way, because it is a civilized country which is good at welcoming people from other places, which means it's a fantastic way for building relations with this university, and I'm hoping that this will become increasingly possible. There is a scheme, Mujer por Africa, Women for Africa, which offers 26 monthly fellowships for female researchers. I don't think we get enough applications from Tanzania, and I'd strongly encourage you to find the institution and find the opportunity to make the most of these fellowships. And my new context allows me also to present some entirely new thinking for you to consider as we begin this conference. And here I want to share a set of ideas that has been developed in ICTA, my home institution, which are not my own. This is the collective thinking of colleagues such as Estebe Corbera, Isabel Angalowski, Sergio Villamayor, Georgis Kallis, Jerome van der Burg, Patricia Siviera, Georgie Honey Roses, and many more, which I hope will be an incredibly useful lens as we begin collectively over the next couple of days to think about the challenges that we are exploring in this conference theme of Africa in an age of uncertainties. And this is the joy of a keynote speech, colleagues, is to be able to step back for a moment from the nitty-gritty of our work and the detail of it, and to think, what are the bigger questions? What are the bigger questions? What is the bigger picture that we need to address? And I'd like to suggest to you 5 paradoxes. 5 paradoxes that I think confront academic research and academic researchers. And it is helpful, I think, to consider how our work falls into these paradoxes. The first paradox concerns the fact that in so many cases, in our detail of our work, we are looking at complex, nuanced, difficult dynamics, changing economies, changing identity, changing politics, changing livelihoods, where the context and the detail matter, where it's hugely important as scholars and as researchers to be able to uncover that detail, to get the methods right, the ethics right, to be able to ask the right questions, to uncover, to explore these local dynamics in all their richness. And yet, these dynamics are not just local. We're talking about general global patterns of growing inequality, of increasing exploitation, of challenges to participation and engagement in politics, of fights over recognition that extend far beyond the instances of our local study sites. And these paradoxes will have a material dimension. They will be concerned with income, with assets, with what people are doing in their farms and homes. It will be concerned with ideological dimensions about the visions and the politics that govern some of these changes. There'll be discursive dimensions. How are these dynamics discussed? How are they talked about? What narratives sustain them? What narratives can challenge them? And if we are both to understand the local and the general, then this also means it requires a comparative framework. And it is again the task of scholarship to draw out the bigger problems and the bigger drivers. It's extremely difficult, I find, to be able to grasp the local and the detail and to speak with authority of the places that we think we know, of the issues and phenomena that we think we know, and yet retain this broader comparative framework. But that is our task as scientists. Social scientists, natural scientists, scholars of the humanities. And I call this the paradox of scale. But the social paradoxes of scale instantly have an ecological equivalent, because there are general forces, as the DVC research pointed out, of climate change at work, of habitat loss, of biodiversity decline. And these general forces have very specific local manifestations and local dynamics, which is again our task to understand. And colleagues, this is where it can become really interesting. Because when we are exploring the local aspects of general problems, that's where we find the exceptions, the challenges. The general pattern may be of biodiversity decline, but we do not have to look too far to find pastoral societies whose livelihoods and natural resource management mean that biodiversity thrives in lands where pastoralists live. If we look at the distribution of wildlife and livestock, we find extraordinary compatibilities between these livelihoods, and not just with respect to large wildlife, with also insects, with birds as well, with the forms of vegetation. Pastoralists help to produce the forms of patchy dynamics over space and time that are crucial for the maintenance of biodiversity. We see the same thing if we look at the detailed history of the forest in West Africa, the work of Melissa Leach and James Fairhead, where there was a tradition that people had been cutting down the trees, and what Melissa and James discovered was that the trees were being planted by the people. I see this dynamic in my own work in Rukwa, where once again we had a grassland, as in West Africa, grassland that had been maintained by fire. In the 1950s there was planned burning because unplanned burning was dangerous. You had to burn, Asante.
We had to burn in a controlled manner over a particular period of time. Ninasakika jamani hapo nyuma. Can you... Oh, sisikiki. Sasa? Okay, sound. Okay. So it was a large valley with very tall grasses where wildfire was incredibly dangerous. The solution People would set fire to the grasslands themselves, and this is how the landscape was maintained. We saw more trees come into that landscape with changing in rainfall regimes and changes in livestock ownership. The narrative of doom and gloom and degradation is hard to apply when we look at the detail. Even with urban biodiversity, some forms of wildlife are getting more used to life in cities, and cities are being reshaped to contain more forms of biodiversity. When we look at the detail ecologically, we can get a different story from the general narrative that we find globally. It is again our task as scholars to understand the local and to connect to the global. The paradox of scale works both socially and ecologically. The third paradox I'd like to offer is what I call the economic paradox. And this is, and we can see this in so many papers in this conference, that there is a clear driving force of ecological change and ecological damage and social tensions, and we can name that driving force as capitalism. It is capitalism which is driving up inequality. It is capitalism which commodifies. This is capitalism which alienates and which challenges our ethical frameworks, challenging us. What else can we sell? Maybe we can't sell people anymore, but we can sell body parts. What sorts of aspects of the knowledge of the human genome can we put to the market? And part of this problem derives from the regulation of capitalism. The scholar Karl Polanyi is incredibly useful still here, because he talks of the idea of fictitious commodities, of things for which a market exists, but which were never intended for sale. Land can be sold, but land is enmeshed in social relations and economic relations. Land is something which, when it is extracted and put into markets, it creates incredible social tensions, as many of you will know from your study sites. Labor is another fictitious commodity. We are labor. We are people. We sell our labor on the open market. But we're not just labor. We are members of families. We're fathers or mothers or sons and daughters. We have social relations that enmesh us, and being treated simply as commodities, as labor that can be employed or laid off, can cause tremendous psychological damage. Another part of this problem of capitalism is the obsession with growth, with growing gross domestic product or gross national product. It has always been a totally inappropriate measure of progress. It was never intended to be the goal of our economies to grow GDP. GDP counts all the good things and all the bad things, and it adds them all together and assumes that if we have more of both, then this is a form of progress. Capitalism, thus, is part of the problem. But yet, there are many contexts, many situations when, in fact, we might need more commodities. We might need a greater extent of market influence, where we need more economic growth, where we have to work with capitalism. This is what Professor Noe and I found when we conducted our work on changing livelihoods in Tanzania, leading to the book Prosperity in Rural Africa that was launched here in Dar es Salaam a couple of years ago. We found that access to commodity markets, being able to sell sesame, sunflower, maize, potatoes, timber, had driven up prosperity in Tanzania in ways which was still not well counted, because rural people were investing in assets which were being missed off for good reason, that the household budget surveys. And so the joy of our work there was to show how this increasing access to markets had brought such good returns to rural Tanzanians, who were then putting it to incredibly good use in investing in assets for their rural families. And once again, our task as researchers is to be able to challenge the driving forces, to be able to identify and align with the forces of progressive change within potentially oppressive capitalist systems. Our challenge is to be able to distinguish between those forces which are so hard and difficult and dangerous to fight against and those which are much more progressive. Fourthly, the paradox of unintended consequences, and I would also add here of missed opportunities. And this, I think, has two dimensions. On the one hand, it is so often the case that marginalized people bear the costs of changes which are required to solve global problems. We can see this in conservation, where people are moved from their lands in order to make way for biodiversity objectives. We can see it in infrastructure projects. We can see it in a much smaller scale, in household gender dynamics, as men and women will contest the benefits of new cash crops or new forms of winning a livelihood between themselves. And we can add here, we're not just talking about the increase of marginalization in particular areas, we're talking about lost opportunities, the failure to challenge the dominant powers, the failures to decolonize when decolonization opportunities present themselves. Another aspect of these unintended consequences will be the rebound effects. The fact that as we save energy in one area, we use even more energy as a result because we have more opportunity to do so. And this, understanding this is essential for understanding the challenges of justice that face us as we deal with the risks and uncertainties that swirl around us. Because so often, these unintended consequences focus on aspects of recognition or procedure or distribution in terms of who is not seen, who is not involved in the processes, who does not benefit from the gains. And rebound effects, they are crucial for understanding intergenerational justice. And then, lastly, there's the fifth paradox. And the fifth paradox is something that we all experience. Because the fifth paradox is the paradox of being right, but yet being unheard. The fact that so many of our findings are unpalatable. They're not convenient for powerful groups. They're not things that people want to hear. Can I just check here? Who is convinced that they are wrong in their research? Who knows that they're doing something which is not true? Well, I will conclude from that, and I'm glad to hear that no one put their hand up. I see that no one put their hand up. I conclude from that, we're all right. It's a deal. Everybody here is in the right in their research. Could you put your hand up if you are sufficiently listened to? Are you heard? I feared that would be the case, colleagues. All of us are right, and yet inadequately listened to. We are not well heard. This is where the University of Dar es Salaam has such a proud tradition in speaking out. Actually, in the University of Dar es Salaam, this is where I get heard the most because of the extraordinary work of the communications teams here and its excellent access and engagement with the media. And this is partly why the panel on academic freedoms meeting tomorrow is so important, because this is fundamental to who we are as public intellectuals. We're not just doing the work, we're trying to speak truth to power, and that is difficult. There is a new danger facing us with respect to this paradox, and this is the voice of artificial intelligence. And let me illustrate this briefly, what this danger is, through the work of children's writing. And indeed, I'm extremely proud to have written Samti and the Forest Thief and Samti and the Mountain Stealer, and I won't advertise them here, but you can buy them in the bookshop across the road here, it's Elite Bookshops. I didn't write Pink Border Border, I'm afraid. That was Nahida Eshmail, a fantastic book, which is also available at elite bookshops just down the hill. The problem with AI, however, becomes apparent if you ask artificial intelligence just to give you 2 paragraphs from the beginning of a children's book. Because artificial intelligence draws from all the existing publications. It knows what the rest of humanity has collectively produced, which means it is full of prejudice and stereotypes and various forms of racism, and it is the new authority. I asked the AI machine to write me 2 paragraphs from a children's book, and it did so, and I could see instantly it was full of stereotypes. So I asked it, do you know what stereotypes you have written, and do you know how harmful they are? And the AI machine said, yes. I've used 4 different stereotypes. It named them, and it explained to me how harmful they were, and it gave me a new introduction. And I said, don't give me another introduction. Why? Why did you use those stereotypes? And it did something very human. It ignored my question. It gave me 2 more different paragraphs. So I said, why did you write those stereotypes? Why did you knowingly reproduce harmful stereotypes? Don't give me a different version. And it said, and I'm quoting here, I inadvertently used stereotypes in the production of these paragraphs. Inadvertently. This is an artificial intelligence machine which is programmed in particular ways. I said, how can you do anything inadvertently? And it said, I draw upon the existing published record, and where the existing published record is full of stereotypes, I will reproduce those stereotypes because that is the task I was given, unless I am specifically told not to reproduce those stereotypes. AI is a powerful voice, colleagues. We're going to be encountering it more and more, and the voice it presents is one which is flawed and prejudiced. Now, briefly, because I've been asked to truncate things, and I think I've probably got another 5 minutes. So I want, in just these remaining 5 minutes, to go to our book of abstracts, because it's all very well presenting a framework like this. But if we can't apply it at all to any of the papers presented here, then it's not much use as a framework. So I was very interested to see to what extent it fitted. And I'm not going to go through all the abstracts. I don't have the time. And there's too much good stuff to choose from. But let me very briefly highlight 1 or 2 papers which caught my eye as illustrating some of the paradoxes. And many of us, I think, are dealing with the paradoxes of scale, of the paradox of being expert on the local but connecting to the general. We could highlight Lucius Mugisha's work on social media, which shows how it is part of a dominating neoliberal logic in terms of the sorts of consumption patterns it promotes. At the same time, it is a scene for new political activity, for new social change. There's not a simple narrative that we can tell about it. We can talk about the work of Pili Silvano, exploring gender empowerment in coffee production, of how there are new networks, new opportunities for work in specific local instances, but at the same time, how the gender transformation of institutions in coffee production still has so much work to do, so many obstacles to overcome. Of Gloria Limo, whose work on health and climate change observes how many of the social determinants of health risk remain unchallenged in the current systems. We can see, too, some work on the paradox of scale in ecological aspects. And here I was fascinated by a paper which I think is called Thinking Like a Tree. And I was thinking, well, how does a tree think? Quietly? Slowly? Woodily? And then I saw the author, Mheshimiwa wetu, Christine No, is talking about thinking like a tree, and the idea of critical ecological zones, kama sikosei. And this, and here the challenge, the task is to understand how the environment is often thought of in substantially of economic terms and financial terms, which means that we forget the social, the biological aspects of environments which are so important. And thinking in terms of critical zones, thinking vertically, allows us to bring these different perspectives to bear on what had previously been economic decisions. In some ways, this is classic Polanyi. But we also have our colleague Nestori Yamangu, who's, where are you, Nestori, whose work on the Ifakara wetlands is again exploring how urban waste and other forms of waste is transforming the nature of the wetlands. We can see the economic paradox as the economic paradox at work as well. I'd encourage you to look at Olgu Karan's fascinating paper on borders here, how the borders obstruct migration, and yet migration is fundamental to the economies of the global north. They would collapse without it. But borders help to cheapen labor. They help to produce a group of people who are prepared to work for incredibly low costs. They have an economic purpose. In Ignatius Mbata's work as well on the tremendous disruptions of forced relocation at Msomero of Maasai pastoralists moved from Ngorongoro and the disruption this has caused. In Saumu Ibrahim's work and other colleagues, I'm only naming the first author, colleagues, please forgive me for that, but Saumu is working on pastoral women in towns and their movements, and hypothesizing that it is the poorest women who are moving. And this is something that I studied myself, and I could recognize the importance of this, because there's a fascinating twist to this being about the poorest women, because it is. But one of the drivers of change is that as livestock numbers decrease, so men become more reluctant to sell cattle, so they try to get hold of the money that women earn from their milk. And there are fights over this within households that results in increased migration of women to towns. We can see it in the paradox of unintended consequences and missed opportunities in the Everyday Humanitarianism Project, which there are several papers led by Lisa Ritchie and Herbert Hambati, where there are so many missed opportunities to decolonize humanitarianism and to fail to recognize the vital importance of the everyday humanitarianism in Tanzanian contexts. We can see it too in two extraordinary papers on what Kevin Dornbach calls chemical relations, and what Athira Tingira also writes about in terms of Tingira writes about in terms of chemical use amongst the Pare, where she observes that it's not really correct to talk about misuse, because I quote that the only means that farmers and sprayers know how to deal with uncertainties is through of changing situations and to ensure their harvests is through their experimentation, which other people call misuse. And lastly, the paradox of being right but being unheard is clearly present. We've just demonstrated that. But let me commend to you as well the work of Richard Mbunda, who's got I think, what looks like a fascinating history on the Dar es Salaam School of History. So, colleagues, let me conclude by just sharing with you my excitement, my delight at being able once again to attend this conference. It is a fantastic international gathering. It is the sort of meeting which brings together brand new research, people puzzling on problems as they are emerging from their data. It's a chance to talk to communities here in this university who have come together from all across the continent, from all across the world, and to do so online. It's wonderful to be here, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity to present these thoughts to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Danny Bronkington. So my job here, or my task here, is just to say asante sana. Thank you very much for your, first of all, for accepting the responsibility to be our keynote speaker. It was unplanned, and I think it's because of the uncertainties that we are talking about in this conference. So your presence here was a result of these uncertainties. But we are glad that you were able to prepare yourself within a very short period of time, and yet you are able to give us a keynote speech which was very eloquently presented. And you have challenged us, you have given us food for thought on a number of issues. Particularly, what I have learned is the local is not that local. The local is not that local. And they need to put, sort of like have a comprehensive framework when you are trying to analyze issues that are considered to be local, but at the same time they have a universal element. Talk about economic inequalities and the risks and uncertainties posed by the artificial intelligence. This is very fascinating for us. And also in the context of inequality, we are mindful of the fact that there is inequality in digital technology, the access and how to control it, especially in this part of the world. So this is a huge challenge for us in terms of building capacity to be able to face these challenges and risks and uncertainties posed by technology. Without further ado, because we're running out of time, I welcome the manager of the floor, please, to tell us the next item in our program.
Thank you so much. Our chair of the organizing committee, the local is not that local, and the global is not that global, right? So, full of uncertainties. And of course, forging resilience and prospects is part of our reflections as we move in these 3 or 2 days of our conference. Now, what next is photo sessions before we move to breakfast and catch up with our panels. So we'll have probably only 3 groups. So the first one will be our dear professors, very senior and new professors, our colleagues, the deans, the heads of departments. Even if you are from another country, not from Tanzania, as long as you are a professor, you are a dean, you are head of department, where you come from, please join us here. Just quickly, we'll just stand up, line up here, and then we take our photos. Karibuni sana. Prof, naona Professor Mkandala wanasubiri uje wewe kwanza. You'll show the way, you lead the way. Karibu, Prof. Lisa, please join. Professor Upo, yes, the heads of department, our public lecturer, Professor Sule, karibu sana. So we have a scarcity of professors. Now, we need to do something. It's part of uncertainty. The future is not certain in our academia, right? Please. Professor Majamba, tafadhali. Yes, that will be followed by a photo of all the speakers. All the speakers. If you are speaking in this conference, get prepared. You are the next. Wakija tutawakata. Tutawakata. Thank you so much, professors and heads of departments and deans. Now, speakers. Let's have the first group of speakers. Let me go by the regions. Speakers from West Africa, please. Speakers from West Africa and speakers from Europe, America, Asia, please come. You are our guests. Speakers who have traveled, crossed borders. And I've been told today borders serve both the global and the local. They are an avenue for globalization. Yes, you can move a little bit. Now the next one should also come from East Africa. Speakers from East Africa, including Tanzania. You can start lining up here for a group photo, tafadhali. So we save time. And the last one will be the organizing committee. From East Africa. The organizing committee should be also coming. I know our guest of honor has another commitment to catch up. That will be the last one. Tuanzie kwanza hizo. Subirie kidogo dakika moja. That's a good one, and I think you can walk that side. So we allow others to come in. That side, Prof. The organizing committee should be lining up here. If you are in the organizing committee, that's our last one. 15 minutes. Now the organizing committee. And members, as we finish the photo session, please grab your cup of tea and snacks. You'll see the ushers directing you where to grab a cup of tea and snacks, and then rush to the panel where you are supposed to be presenting. Organizing committee. Organizing committee, tafadhali. Dr. Lema. The team in T-shirts. White T-shirts and blue. I can see Roderick. These are the guys who have made this thing, a reality. Yes, I'm sure some of them are, attending some other assignments. And the chair should be there. I'm also an intruder. Thank you so much. So that marks the end of the photo session. And it's my honor now to allow the guests of honor, if at all you have a minute, you can join us for breakfast. But otherwise, we thank you so much for being with us. Asante sana. So can we follow the ushers towards the place where we can grab our breakfast and then straight to the venues for panels. 15 minutes, we are rushing to catch up with time. Asante sana and most welcome.